And there's more church fires and, well, one more church fire and a whole bunch going on. Free speech under attack and much more. Let's get to it. First, we have to start with free speech and carbon taxes because it's all kind of intertwined. And so here is the Palmer worm. It says, you know what the symbolism of smashing the Magna Carta is about, right? Hammering the world into being Fabian window, hammer and sickle, most significantly ushering in KC3 terracotta. The old deers grueling themselves together are just props. I thought that right away. So I don't know if you've heard about this story, but the story is Ollie London says, shocking moment, elderly climate change activists use a hammer and chisel to smash glass protecting the priceless Magna Carta, the Royal Charter of Rights signed by King John in 1215. The two women in their 80s tried to destroy the protective glass at the British Library. And immediately when I saw that, I thought, this is some kind of weird communication. These women are, as maybe they're climate zealots, maybe they're, what was that? What's that group? Extinction Rebellion. There are a lot of older people are in Extinction Rebellion. I don't know why so many older people hate the success they have and don't want that success to be repeated by younger generations. I'm not sure why that is. But anyway, the second I saw this, I thought these women are being used. This is some kind of communication tool because, I mean, the video, there's lots of press here. It's like a Biden press conference. And they're saying, just stop oil. So they've attacked free speech through attacking the Magna Carta. Now they've got people's attention. And I mean, like, realistically, a security guard, if you're walking around with a hammer and a chisel in the place with the Magna Carta, the security guard's gonna, I think I've been here. And the security guard's not letting you in with a hammer and a chisel. Not when I went. Anyway, I don't know. These old women probably just had it in their bag and they just forgot to have their bags checked. They didn't go through the X-ray machine or something like that. It stinks to high heaven for me. So the second I saw it, I thought this is some kind of communications thing. And these people are attacking the Magna Carta with a hammer and a sickle, or a hammer and a chisel. So, right, here's some video, right? And it's funny, if you watch Bluey, it reminds me of Bluey and Bingo being the old ladies, right? Like, oh, Bingo, right? So it's funny a little bit. And then they say, just stop oil.
And standing up against an
Yes, I'm receiving over.
power. Our government is breaking
come
its
to Magna Carta,
own
please?
laws.
As a Christian,
Yes,
I
yes, sir.
am
Can you come to-
compelled to do all that I can
Can you stop doing that, please? Stop filming, please, eh?
to
Can you stop doing that?
alleviate
Stop doing
the
that, please.
appalling suffering that's
come to
coming
Magna
down
Carta,
the
over,
line
please.
and is here already.
You can see on the women on the left, it says just stop oil. And then they both chant, just stop oil.
Can you stop doing
Whatever
that,
it
please?
takes,
Can
whatever
you
the
stop filming,
cost.
please? Can you stop doing that?
So we must
Stop doing that, please. Did you hear me?
just
Stop.
Yes, yes,
Oil.
sir. Can you come to Magna Carta over?
We must just stop.
oil.
Right. So just stop oil. And it seems like an attack on free speech at the same time. And so I said, what kind of message do you think this sends? To me, it says, you thought free speech was under attack before. You ain't seen nothing yet. So pay attention, right? Ollie London says, shocking moment. Elderly climate change activists use a hammer and chisel to smash glass, protecting the priceless Magna Carta. Right. So pretty wild stuff. Here's Justin Trudeau. And Gov.exe says, Justin Trudeau says his team of experts are predicting a very bad forest fire season this year. And because people are so worried, it's time for the government to step up and invest to reduce the impacts of climate change. Not bombers, right? Not water bombers, or invest in firefighting stuff, right? Like hoses and, personnel and all of the rest of the stuff that you need to actually fight fires and things like that. No. We're going to invest in climate change because, definitely the money that we give to the government of Canada in taxes is going to fight global climate change. Gov.exe continues. He says, how is it possible that our government is not responsible for something that is completely within their control, like inflation, but claim they have the power to change something that they have no control over, like the global climate? And why is nobody asking them these questions? Yeah, great questions. All very, very good questions. But soon uncomfortable questions like that will be shut down because of hate speech laws. You're not allowed to question climate change, just like you're not allowed to question all the other things that you're not allowed to question, right? Vaccine, safety, elections, all the rest. It's dangerous to question these things. People might listen to you. Yeah. Yara Sachs says, my statement on the Rebel News event in York Center with Donald Trump Jr. And wow, it's pretty crazy. She says, and it's pretty long, but I'll read some of it. Sadly, I've learned that Rebel News will be bringing its hateful and extremist views to York Center, the riding I'm proud to represent, when it holds Canada's most provocative conference, including Donald Trump Jr. and other mega conservatives at Downsview Park this weekend. While I am a strong supporter of the right to free speech, let me be clear that the vile views espoused by Rebel News are not welcome in York Center, nor do its residents support them, which I don't think that's for her to say. She is the elected representative of that area, but I don't think she speaks for all the residents, right? Like, especially with regards to supporting Donald Trump Jr. or Rebel News. Rebel News is committed, back to this, Rebel News, its commentators, staff, and associates have espoused everything from anti-Semitism to Islamophobia. Ezra blocked me when I said there's way more to this whole Hamas October 7th thing than meets the eye. And I went through anybody watching the show, and there are a lot of people who have been watching the show when I did this. I went through the history before October 7th, and there's a lot of history there. It's not like it came out of nowhere and, block. So anti-Semitism from Ezra, okay. Islamophobia, okay, maybe. But both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are just tools meant to shut down speech that's critical of Jews or Muslims, and that's weird, right? How come it's not white Semitic to say mean things about white people? I'm kidding, by the way, just in case people are wondering. They claim to support the Jewish people, but traffic in the Great Replacement and Soros conspiracies, anti-Semitism by any other name. Worse yet, they pretend that this is all par for the course. Ezra fired Faith Goldie for reporting on the Great Replacement in 2018, probably. I think it was probably even before that. I mean, she was going to different rallies and things, but again, those rallies, just like January 6th, were dealt with as kind of a different situation than they actually were in reality, right? Again, January 6th wasn't an insurrection or anything to that effect, and they're pretending that it is. And that's, it's really, really interesting. But these accusations are incorrect. In recent weeks, back to what she's saying, Rebel News has attacked me personally, mailing my entire writing and launching an attack website. I will not be bullied from doing my job, and I will not be lectured on how to be Jewish by one of Canada's leading disseminators of hate. So, and then she asks the police to have a look. I'll continue to read it. Why not? It's unfortunate, but not surprising that Donald Trump Jr. will attend this conference. Canada has beautiful attractions, shows, and events. Rebel News event is not one of them. Petty. My conservative opponent, Roman Baber, has been platformed by and interacted with Rebel News at every opportunity. Rebel News is clearly supporting Roman Baber, and if Roman has any personal integrity, he would denounce their hateful views and extremism. I think it's interesting how often liberals, Justin Trudeau, now Yara Sachs, want other people to denounce third parties like Rebel News because the Liberal doesn't like them. Yara doesn't like them, so Roman has to denounce them. Justin Trudeau doesn't like them, so Pierre Poilievre has to denounce them. Why do they get to decide? Like, it's up to voters who they want to, and I don't really think it's up to voters, but, whatever. The idea is that it's up to voters, and if they want to vote for a politician who hangs out with Rebel News and hangs out with Donald Trump Jr., then, you don't, Yara Sachs. So if you think it's so damaging, you should be well ahead, streets ahead in the polls and stuff. And the Liberals aren't, right? I think Yara Sachs is probably slated to lose her seat. It's interesting that they project like that. He won't, because he and Rebel News hold the same extremist fringe views that got him kicked out of Doug Ford's caucus. Interesting, right? While I deplore this conference is taking place, I urge Toronto's police to take steps to keep all participants safe. So weird. The whole thing is really, really strange, including the invocation of talking, saying, Toronto police, keep an eye on this. Andy Lee says, asking the police to take steps to keep people safe from a conference on free speech hosted by an independent media organization is peak Trudeau Liberals. Authoritarian tendencies on full display. Yeah, there's a lot of concerning rhetoric in Yara's little write-up there. And wow, right? Wow. If she thinks her opponent should denounce somebody that she doesn't like, what does she think that her constituents should do, right? Wow. David says the National Department of Secrecy, National Defense, wins award for its efforts to hide information from the public. So in Canada, we're giving out awards for keeping information under wraps and, keep the public as uninformed as possible. That way we can lie to them more. Son of a Bench says Trudeau was in Kelowna, BC today to talk with families about last year's wildfire season. He talked with them about so much, he seemed not to be able to remember what they spoke about. This is only 18 seconds. So 18 seconds Trudeau warning. Here we go.
This morning I sat down with a number of families who lost their homes in the fires here last year, who are still deeply impacted by it, obviously. We talked about their situations. We talked about the loss of so much.
Right. Very succinct. Again, promoting forest fires to underpin your climate change policies, it's very gauche. It's very yucky. I don't like it at all. It's worse than using gun crime to promote your gun policies, and they do that too. Peter Sweden says massive thousands of people take to the streets of Poland to protest against the EU climate agenda. People have had enough of climate communism. Thank goodness. Thank goodness that people have had enough. And again, this is another one. Jack Pozo saying Polish farmers rising up against the Green Deal. So yeah, we don't want the Green Deal. The Green Deal is crap, and it's very, very damaging. Here's a minute of Justin Trudeau, and I don't know if we need to watch this. Maybe we'll watch half of it. We'll watch it until I get sick of it. So maybe we'll watch 10 seconds. Canada's economy is strong, says Justin Trudeau, and it's growing. We're in a position to invest in our people, so that's what we're doing. Hold on, I just want to show you this first. Dominic says lineup at the Fort York Food Bank this morning. That's May 10th, 2024, yesterday. It's an entire block long. This is Chrystia Freeland's riding. For shame. Okay. So now, with that context in mind, this is Justin Trudeau talking about the Canadian economy. Okay. Here we go.
We're actually the third largest economy in the world after the US and Germany with a AAA rating. And the IMF just announced that its projections for 2025 has Canada as the top growth rate in the G7. Our macro situation is really, really good.
But when you zoom into that like food bank situation, expanding and terrible. It's interesting to me how the government, Chrystia Freeland does this a lot, says all of the things, the indicators look great. Our macro situation is good. Our economy is strong. But the reality on the ground is that people can't afford rent, and people are lining up at food banks because they can't afford food, because everything's so prohibitively expensive now, and getting more expensive too. And so it is they're lying. But what do you think happens when the lie doesn't when the lie doesn't match the truth that people are living, right? The backlash, people are upset already. So people are just waiting to replace this government, very similar to when Kathleen Wynne got replaced. I think that Trudeau is going to probably lose the next election, but it's going to be a long, painful process to get there. It's really, really bad. And Out of Touch doesn't do it. They're lying to craft a narrative. They're lying to say, look, see what Polyev is saying about people being poor and people not being able to, make ends meet and so on and so forth is a lie. That's a lie. And our version of reality is the truth. That's what they're trying to do here. It's not just that they're trying to mislead. They're trying to create a reality where if you don't see it, then you're part of the problem. And that's crazy. That's crazy. I think that there will be backlash when but backlash to who? People can't really be upset with this government because they'll call you terrorists, they'll call you racist, they'll call you all sorts of mean names. And they're working to have a system where they can fine you $70,000 if you say something mean online, racist, terrorist, whatever it is. And they can put you in jail. They can preemptively put you in jail if they think you might say something mean. They can preemptively put you on house arrest. I don't know if they can put you in jail. I think that's part of it. But there's all sorts of crazy things that they're trying to do to be able to bolster their version of reality and crush anybody who tries to point out that their version of reality is false. It's fantasy. And here's Randy Boissonnault. He is the Minister of Employment. And there was recently somebody upset at Tim Hortons from going from plastic lids, which didn't disintegrate when you were drinking from them, to paper lids, which do disintegrate when you're drinking from them. And so in response to this, he goes to Tim Hortons and has a coffee, and he takes the lid off the coffee, which completely destroys the Sorry, I didn't mean to push play. And then he eats the donut and whatever, and like he's wasting time. This is a minister of the crown sitting like doing TikTok videos in Tim Hortons. What is happening? This is not appropriate whatsoever. Caliber underlines this. He says, I can't tell what's worse, that the Minister of Employment has nothing better to do than make glib Twitter retorts to a complaint about paper lids, or that the minister thinks that it's at all plausible that he enjoys Tim Hortons donuts and coffee, because no one does. And here, Eva Chippick says, "Oh, Randy, perhaps you can reach out to your own constituents." And she's linking to a tweet of her own saying, "Dear Randy, can we elevate the conversation in this country, or are these childish videos the most we can expect from our elected officials? You are an elected official. You can lead that way. Still waiting to hear from you about having a meeting as your constituent. It's been 3 years. I'll come to Tim Hortons. Is that the most convenient for you?" So people don't like what's going on, but these liberals have done a good job at seeming like they're talking to real people, putting out ads and videos and things like that, but not actually talking to anybody about anything and doing what they want, while people hate it. And so people feel frustrated, because it doesn't matter if they push back. It doesn't matter if they go yell at their MP or their MPP or their MLA, whatever it is, the provincial representative or their municipal government, right? Since COVID, they can say, well, that's pretty aggressive behavior, right? Like you can't be aggressive to me here. If you go to your school board, right, they just shut off your mic. So people are frustrated because if they do get upset and they come back to people through the proper channels, they just get shut down. You can email people on boards and things like that. They start blocking your email. It's really quite something. And so people get frustrated, and there's going to be a snapback. And these people don't think that there's going to be a snapback. That's very strange. Very strange. Andrew says, continued campaign of violent arson attacks against Christians in Trudeau's Canada based on a blood libel promoted by Trudeau and members of his government. Fire destroys a 123-year-old church in Greenwood, British Columbia, per CBC News. That was this morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. So another church is burned. Another church fire, says Melissa, in Canada. Massive fire overnight destroys a 123-year-old church in BC. So the destruction of our history and culture is underway, and the current government that's facilitating it have created a situation where you can't really push back, because if you push back, you'll just be ignored, and then they'll make silly Tim Hortons videos to mock you. Let's talk about crime. And then we're going to talk about an invasion. Well, the ongoing invasion that we've been talking about for a while. Jania says, the crime severity index has risen dramatically under Justin Trudeau. More worrisome is that violent crime severity index tracked by Statistics Canada, which has risen by 30% since Trudeau took office. Yeah, violent crime's going up, everybody. Yay, good job, Justin Trudeau. Here's the Toronto Sun article talking about this. Trudeau government makes big promises but fails to deliver. From housing to dental plans, gun bans to foreign affairs, Trudeau is all sizzle and no steak. And this was posted at the end of April. Yeah, there is a bit of pushback, but not nearly what you'd expect for things like this. 640 Toronto captures footage of a man surrendering to police after stabbing 3, including 2 high school students, this morning in Wolfdale. That's Mississauga area. And that's 4:04 p.m. yesterday. So knife crime is on the rise. And I remember when this started happening in the UK, because they don't have guns the same way the United States has guns. And so knife crime became the thing. And they started talking about having like dull knives in supermarkets. Like the knife would have you'd have the ability to like saw bread if you wanted to cut bread or something to that effect. But the point was dulled, it was gone. So to, prevent knife crime, for your safety, comrade, here's a spork. Here is a woman in a mail carrier, postal worker in Dublin, CA, robbed at gunpoint, another victim of rising crime under Governor Newsom. So this is US. I thought this was Scotland. There was another, Dublin, Scotland, Ireland. But this is Dublin, California. So this is pretty wild stuff, right? Somebody's just doing her job, and then these guys walk up. Gunpoint, right? 2 guys, and then they rob the postal truck, and I think they throw her out. Like at the end of the video, she walks away. She's here, right? And then these guys leave. But the whole thing is crazy. And at some point, like when I was growing up, and maybe it's because I was a child and didn't understand the world as such, but like it used to be that if there was crime, the police would arrest the criminals and then put the criminals in jail. And now the police are going after people who say mean things on Facebook and letting criminals out of jail. And the politicians are cheering it on. The politicians are, in fact, enacting the laws that make that possible. And that's crazy. It seems inverted. It seems like we are having all of the things that we were raised to believe to be correct turned on its head. And if we object to it, we're being called names, racist, whatever it is. And it's a form of gaslighting. It's a form of torture, I would say. But I think that most people, it's not on the level of most people being consciously aware of it, right? Like you don't think to yourself, this used to be fine. You just get mad at it, right? And you're like, what the hell? So it's weird and interesting. Darshan Maharaja, let's talk about an invasion, because there's an ongoing invasion in this country and it's very scary. Darhan says, CPC MP Arpana Khanna, sorry if I got that wrong, picks up on a point that I highlighted here. Criminal background checks are not mandatory for international students, contrary to what Immigration Minister Mark Miller stated categorically. The reply does not answer the question. So this is a question and response, and fundamentally what we're going to learn is that there's no background checks for these students, and the minister is not going to answer questions because, I mean, liberals don't answer questions they don't like. Here we go.
The immigration minister clearly stated that all international students undergo a criminal record check to enter Canada. That is false. Police certificates are not mandatory for international students that enter our country thanks to this Liberal government. This immigration minister is following the exact same reckless path of his predecessor, who notoriously lost 1 million people. Why did the minister mislead Canadians, and can you tell us how many international students were let in without police clearances?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, for far too long, international students have been exploited and vulnerable from abuse and fraud. That's why we are taking concrete action. We implemented a new verification process to authenticate.
He's reading from a paper, so he's prepped for questions, and instead of answering the question, he's just reading from a paper. So it's just talking points that don't have anything to do with the question. So we're not going to get any answers, but interesting stuff. No records check, no police check, nothing like that is mandatory. Wild. And so if you're a criminal and you're somewhere else and you see an ad, why would you see an ad? Well, Stephen says, I can't believe Canada's government spent $30 million in taxpayer funds on targeted digital ads to get international students to attend fly-by-night diploma mills, and all you got was a housing crisis. Yeah. So there's ads. If you're a criminal in a foreign country and you think to yourself, I could become a student, no problem, right? No criminal check. And then you get to go to Canada, and through these fly-by-night colleges, the college makes money. You get a new opportunity to be a criminal in a foreign country, right? Bingo, bango, bongo. Everybody's happy, right? Except for the victims of these crimes, including the people who are subsidizing these colleges, and Canadians who have had their home broken into or been victims of crime. Ben says, Brampton had up to 80 private diploma mill colleges using international students as an ATM. $222 million? Sure, right? That's just for a year, 2 years maybe? A year? Brampton had up to 80 private, In January, Federal Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Minister Mark Miller announced a 2-year cap on new student visas starting this fall. Miller said the decision was, at least in part, aimed at eradicating private post-secondary education institutions he described as the diploma equivalent of puppy mills and fly-by-night operation and backdoor entries into Canada with dubious academic standards. This puppy mills thing it pops up a couple of times, and there's something about it that bothers me. I don't know what it is. The rhetoric around it is weird. There's something strange about it. Puppy mills are very different than diplomas. There's something weird about the puppy mill imagery. They're using it on purpose, and I don't know why, but there's something strange about it. It's sticking out to me quite a lot. During the news conference on Tuesday, May 7th at Algoma University's Brampton campus, Mayor Patrick Brown told reporters that the city was home between 70 and 80 such institutions. That's a huge number. While the news conference, and I mean, like, just doing the math yesterday, it's not any question why. Like, you don't have to offer all that much, and you're getting a crap ton of money. So, yowza. Patrick Brown, while the news conference was to announce a new Algoma student residence in downtown Brampton. Brown Liberal MP Shakif Ali and Progressive Conservative MPP Charmaine Williams were asked by reporters to provide an update on this diploma mill file. Neither clarified if or how many questionable or fraudulent private institutions have been shut down in Brampton since the visa cap and proposed new measures were announced, but all three expressed optimism those initiatives are having or will have the desired effect. I think it was a real problem. I think there was a real puppy mill of degrees from not reputable academic institutions. See? I don't know, there's something weird about it. Brown told reporters, "We want students to learn. We hear about the wild west of institutions where there wasn't the commitment to academic integrity. I think that's what cast a pall over the academic sector in this country. How the system has changed, I think it's going to be reconciled now. A year ago, I would have been really critical, but right now I'm very optimistic. The transformation we're going under is going to restore integrity to the sector by rewarding the Algomas and rewarding the Algomas and taking away opportunities from those who are really using international students as an ATM with no return in academic integrity." I don't know if this has solved the problem. These people are using rhetoric that sounds like it solved the problem, but I don't know. The jury's going to be out on that for a little while, I think. Here's Tommy Robinson. He's sharing this one, a little glimpse of the future. Darren Grimes says, Sadiq Khan says it's a priority for him to build thousands more homes in London for Muslims to live near mosques and halal food shops. So yesterday we were talking about the Muslim takeover of London. Today I present the Muslim takeover of London.
Issue faced in London, is particularly London is of Islamic faith, is the issue of housing. And so we need to build far more homes in our city because often people from minority communities want to live near a mosque, near halal food, near places where there are other people like them. So they for a variety of obvious reasons, and they're priced out because there's not enough housing. So we're going to build at least 40,000 council homes, at least 6,000 rent control homes. And the final thing to say in relation to Londoners who are Muslim is, look, one of our strengths is our diversity. It's something I'm really proud of. I've organised, since I've been mayor, events like Eid in the Square, Ramadan Lights, and so forth. Why is that?
Eid and Ramadan, super diverse. So diverse, so much diversity. Those are both Islamic holidays, right? If he was talking about, a Hindu holiday, maybe some, Christmas lights and things like that, and not holiday lights, Christmas lights, maybe, right? Here's politics, and this is a UK poll. High levels of immigration are fueling Britain's housing crisis, according to the Bank of England's chief economist. Is immigration to blame for the housing crisis? 80% of 3,678 votes says yes, and 18% says no, and 1.4% say don't know. And yeah, that's it. The more people you have, the more housing will cost. There was an MIT study that said it's a one immigrant, one migrant, and 1% increase in housing. So that's high. Mark Miller says the fact that people are already here, their impact on affordability has already been baked in. So it's smart, said Miller, but it doesn't mean by extension that everyone is entitled to stay here or to be here in Canada. I don't know. One way to decrease temporary residence is to make them permanent, Minister suggests. Yeah. So on one hand, he's saying, we don't have to keep them here permanently. But on the other hand, that's a good way to lower the numbers of temporary residents. Just make them permanent residents. A key method of restricting the population of temporary residents is to offer them permanent resident status, the immigration minister said Friday. But that doesn't mean everyone who wants to stay will be able to. They'll just stay as temporaries, right? They won't upgrade to the permanent status. They'll just stay as temporary whatevers. Mark Miller met with his provincial and territorial counterparts for the first time since he announced an unprecedented plan to set limits on the number of new temporary residents. Several provincial ministers pitched expanding their own immigration programs as a way to transition temporary visa holders into permanent residents. The fact people are already here, their impact on affordability has already been baked in, so it's smart. No. I don't want to enshrine the housing crisis or the inflationary crisis, any of those things. The inflation stuff can be dealt with by removing the carbon tax pretty effectively and undoing a lot of the bad policies. Well, Malay's had, we're going to talk about that in a little while, but Malay's had some success with reducing the deficit from 300% or 300% budget overrun to only 11%. 300% inflation to 11% inflation and a balanced budget and all sorts of other stuff. So I think that we don't need to make this permanent. but it seems like that's the Liberal. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to canadapoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.